Sorry about that. My cat scratched the crap out of me. See? So funny story. I actually recorded next week's video before I recorded this week's video, and so he's actually sitting in my lap during that video. So, uh, uh, um, fun days in cat ownership. Don't own a cat. All right. Actually, do own cats. They're amazing. Let us go back to where we were. All right. So, the differences between arts marketing and traditional marketing. There's a couple of key differences, right? So the first one is that there's a lack of input in product design, which means, as arts marketers, we don't get to decide how the product is going to get designed, nor does the audience really. Marketing preferences might be disregarded in favor of quality. So in a regular organization, you would learn from your demographics about what they want, and then you would put that together. In an arts organization, you might not do that in favor of something that is of higher quality, artistic quality, aesthetic quality. And something with drawing power might be pulled in favor of a certain loss maker. So that's kind of similar to the other one. The first one means this one means marketing preferences might be disregarded in favor of quality. Means like it might be that people want a performance every weekend, but it may not be good for the quality of the shows that you put on, for you to put on a show every weekend, or for you to have a portrait all the time, ready all the time. Something with drawing power might be pulled in favor of a certain loss maker. Means there might be something that everyone wants, like everybody might want horses, but you don't draw horses, you draw flowers. So you might not your organization might not be drawing horses, they're going to draw flowers instead, which would be like a loss maker. Because for arts organizations, audience isn't always how you define success. So why should we talk about art-specific marketing, right? So these three things that we just talked about, these make arts a unique context, right? The skills and views are different than traditional product marketing. Skills and views that are different than traditional product marketing are necessary, even though you are technically marketing a product. All right, so what's similar, right? We're not alone. As arts marketers, we're not the only ones sitting in a void with no one to look to help us that are similar to us. Okay, so people who are like us. It's going to be the end of the course. I'm going to have all this this stuff figured out. All right, so arts marketing has some overlap with service, nonprofit, and public sector marketing, all right? So in service marketing, the focus is on the service product with emphasis on the intangibility and perishability. So what's a service product? Think about that. What's a service that's offered to people? It's a service product. I'm sure you all have, you don't need that. I'm sure you all have really great ideas. What's a service product? It's when a business offers a service. What's a business that offers a service? I imagine all of you are like shouting at the screen. So like Google is a service marketing, right? They offer you a service. Gmail is a service, right? So the focus when they're talking about Gmail is on the intangibility and on the perishability. They offer you the ability to email and to hold on to your email, right? So that's what a service marketing is. They're offering you that service. Or let's say I have a service that, this is a true story. It's not, I'm not making this up. I have something called Imperfect Produce. What Imperfect Produce does is they take ugly vegetables that they wouldn't sell in a grocery store, and they put them in a box and they deliver it to me every other week. The service is, the impact that it's having on the environment, right? That's the intangibility. And then the perishability is that, it only happens every once in a while. And it's something that I don't want to do myself, right? So in nonprofit marketing, the focus is on the characteristics of the organization. So if you talk about the Red Cross, right? The Red Cross, when they market themselves, they talk about what the Red Cross does, what the Red Cross believes. They believe in service. They believe in helping in times of disaster. That's nonprofit marketing. And then in public sector marketing, what's public sector? Anybody? Public sector is like if you're marketing a city, or if you're marketing the services that a city provides. So in public sector marketing, the focus is on the citizen as consumer. So the focus is on you, right? So public sector marketing would be like, we offer you these things because you're our consumer, you're our citizen, and we do these things for you, right? Specifically you. So the potential problem here is the singular focus, right? Arts marketing needs to do all three of these things. So you need to think about the service product, right? Because when your art is a service, it's not just a product. So you want to think about the intangibility of what you're doing and the perishability of what you're doing. Arts are usually nonprofits, even if they're for-profit organizations. And in that, the focus is on the characteristics of the organization, right? So why do you make art? What kind of art do you make? Those are the characteristics of your organization. And then you also need to focus on the citizen as the consumer. So the people who are paying for your art are the consumer, right? And you want to think about what they want, what they need, and how you can help them get where they want to go, or get what they want. Okay? So there's two characteristics of arts marketing. There's structural marketing, and then there's the process to the marketing. We'll talk about that coming up. So structural. So structural, of course, implies like there's a structure to it, right? There's a guidelines. There's a there's a structure, like a physical structure, right? Okay, so first you have the product, right? It's within the cultural domain. It can be human performance. This even applies to non-performing arts. So even if you're an artist who does paintings or does photography, like there's still a human performance aspect of it. You're still creating something as a human, right? And location as identity. So like where you live or where it's created can be part of what it is, right? So if you have I'll say the MFAH, right? The location of the MFAH is a part of its identity. It's in the museum district. It's here in Houston, and they use that as part of who they are, okay? And then you have the organization. So in the structure of marketing something, you have the product, right? And the product is in the cultural domain. It has a human performance to it, and the location of the product is part of the identity. Is it in the Africa wing? Is it in the Renaissance wing? That's what location as identity means. So then you have the organization, right? So what is the role of the artist in the organization? That's important. The clash of commerce and culture, what that means is like, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I feel like I say it all the time, but people won't pay for art at the cost that it takes to make it. So that's the clash of commerce and culture, right? Culture costs more than people want to pay for it. And then arts networks. So those are like things like Americans for the Arts or the American Association of Museums. These are networks of similar organizations or even similar artists who work together that they can you can market across these sorts of things and get information from them about how they're doing stuff. So then there's the market. So the market is the invisible place where selling happens. The market used to be a physical place where people would go and they would sell their 3 cows for 17 chickens, right? But now that place doesn't exist. It's invisible. So the market, right, is your resource base. It's who's coming, right? What kind of resources do you have? So it's what can you buy and what can you sell and who's buying and who's selling, right? So the market is this invisible place. So it's your resource base. What kind of things can you get? What kind of things, what if, so here's a good example, right? Over the course of the last couple hundreds of years, right? Different colors of paint have come in and out of vogue because sometimes they get the things that are in them become illegal. Um, so that's the resource space, right? Like, so if there's no legal way to make the color yellow that you're looking for, you'll have to change what you're doing in order to meet your resource space. Diversity of audience means just like who's in your audience, like who's coming to see your shows, right? Who's buying. And the influence of critics really affects the market, so that affects the market of a whole, like as a whole. And critics are the ones who sort of tell the market where to look and where to go and what to focus on, and really try to change the minds of people towards what's good and what's bad. Okay, so then there's process, right? So before we talked about structure, we said there's two parts of arts marketing, structure and process. So we talked about structure, let's talk about process. All right, so value defining processes. When you're marketing, you want to think about how to define value. And value is, it could be money, or it could be the value of the of like putting yourself out there, value of notoriety, right? That would be a value. So how do you define value, right? Where do you get that value definition from? There's all sorts of places you can look to, people similar to you, artists similar to you, organizations similar to you. And then the discovery of new art also changes the value defining processes, right? So as new art is made and there's nothing to compare it to, how would you define the value of that? And so those are value defining processes. Value developing processes, right? So that's the education and development of artists. So the education and development of artists would be like, are you allowing as an organization other people who don't participate in art to come in and be able to participate and become artists themselves? Are you taking people who are artists and teaching them? Are you offering them classes? You know, what kind of things are you doing? And then the education and development of audiences is the same thing, like but for audiences, right? It's a little bit of what we talked about last week, which is audience development. You know, so how do you educate and develop your audiences? We talked about that a lot last week. And the value delivering processes, right? So first you have to define your value, then you have to develop your value, and then you have to deliver your value. And the way that you deliver your value, or you tell people how valuable you are, is through access. So how accessible are you? And then your pricing, right? And yesterday, last class, we talked about access, and that access can mean a lot of different things, right? And pricing is part of access, but pricing is how you is the most common way to define your value, is to deliver your value. All right. So a really huge part of marketing is research. Huge part of marketing is research. People think marketing and advertising are the same thing. They are not. Advertising is like when you buy ads. Marketing is this bigger thing, right? So huge part of marketing is research, right? Knowing your audience allows you to craft effective marketing for that audience, okay? You have to understand their motivation. You have to be able to balance cost and benefit. And then you need to know how they're going to feel about new ideas, right? So what if you change the assortment of products that you have? What if you change your pricing structure? What if you change the way that they experience the facility? What if you offer them promotions or coupons? Like, how is that going to affect them? You want to know that ahead of time. Or you can use them as sort of test subjects, right? So if you have this really loyal group of audience that you've developed, right, from what we learned last week, you can use them as test subjects, right? So maybe change the pricing and see what happens. Maybe change the experience and see what happens. Maybe, you know, change the product and see if they're interested in it, right? This is how you do research for marketing. But you have to know your audience in order to be able to do these things, okay? So the process of research for marketing is essentially the scientific method, right? So you have to figure out what your problem is, right? What's your problem? Let's say your problem is that you want more audiences, right? That can be a problem. And then you develop a hypothesis, right? So your problem is that you don't have enough audience to meet your needs. So develop a hypothesis. Your hypothesis is that people don't like the shows that you've been doing, right? Then you have to collect data. So this is the part that a lot of arts organizations forget or miss, right? They don't collect the data. And they just say, well, they don't like our shows, so we have to do different kinds of shows. But they have nothing to like support that, right? So collecting data means like send out surveys, poll your audience, call your volunteers, ask people why they're not coming to your shows anymore or why they don't come to your shows. Then you have to analyze the data, so see if there's like similarities across all the different people that you've polled, and then you can derive conclusions. So if our problem is that we don't have enough audiences, and our hypothesis was that people don't like the shows that we're doing, so what we did was we did an audience survey of not just the people who are coming to our shows, but the people who used to come to our shows who aren't anymore, which we know because we've been collecting that data, right? And then we're analyzing the data that they've brought back to us, and what we can find from deriving from our conclusions is that they like the shows that we're doing. It's just that our shows are too late in the evening, or they don't like a direction, or they don't like, they need us to have less Sunday matinees or more Sunday matinees, or we just don't have as much audience, or these are the things that you could derive from the data. So it's either a yes or no, right? All right, so the approaches to marketing research. I just talked a little bit about this. There's exploratory research, which utilizes primarily informal and qualitative means. So you're going to hear two words in a second. One is quantitative and one is qualitative. These are the two different kinds of data that we collect as organizations. All organizations collect quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative is numbers. It can be defined. Qualitative is words, right? So qualitative is people talking about things, right? All right, so qualitative data is usually informal. Start over. Exploratory research is usually informal and qualitative. So that's like interviews, observation, focus groups, right? So this is where you start, right? This is when you're exploring what you think the answer might be. So you just ask people and you record what they say, or you watch people, right? Or you get a bunch of people in a room and you ask them all together a bunch of the same questions and see what kind of conversation comes up. That's exploratory research. Descriptive research describes something in quantitative terms, okay? So that's customer demographics, right? So is your audience getting older? Is your audience only coming from a certain part of town? Is your audience, you define it in numbers and percentages. This is what you really think of when you think of research, is numbers, right? Opinion polls. So saying something like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you like my show? That's a Likert scale. That's an opinion poll. My husband took my cat out of the room after he scratched me, and now he's banging at the door, if that's what you hear. Measurement of experience. So that's the same as opinion poll, right? So like, did you enjoy the experience that you had? Their opinion of the show and the experience that they had can be completely different, right? Those are different things. That's descriptive research. And then casual research. Casual research seeks to understand factors that cause, explain, or predict other perceptions, feelings, or behaviors, right? That's hard to understand. So casual research seeks to understand factors that cause, explain, or predict other perceptions, feelings, or behaviors. So a perception affects a behavior, right? So a perception. So what you think affects how you feel, which affects what you do, right? So what you think is how you feel, changes what you do, right? So if you think that your audience is, if you're an audience member and you think that the opera is only for an elitist group of people, then you feel excluded, so then you don't come to the show, right? So that's casual research. How do you find out those things? How do you figure out those connections across? What are they feeling? And then what are their perceptions that are making them feel that way so that they're not doing what you want them to do? All right. So brand equity from the patron view. So the value of the brand, the organization, or the artist is derived from a variety of factors. So the value of your brand, right? We talked about value can be money, it can be something else. but it's all derived from perceived quality. So how good do they think you are? How loyal are they to you, right? Loyalty, how loyal are they? Associations, what other things of value are you associated with? And then how aware of you is the market, right? So how good is your show? How value are your customers? Who else are you associated with? And then how aware are other people of what you're doing? Those are the things that derive the value of your brand. There's 5 reasons to consider equity. You're going to think about profit, product, promotion, perceived performance, and participation of sponsors. Profit, product, promotion, perceived performance, and participation of sponsors. I'm not entirely sure why that's there. Okay, so that's about branding, right? So branding is important. Equity meaning like you're not just going to market each show, you're going to market the brand as a whole. That's I think what that's about. I can't remember why I put that there. Okay. So marketing is about spreading awareness, right? It's a very general concept. It can serve several purposes, right? So it might be that you want positive opinions about yourself. It might be that you're looking for support for something that you are doing, or it could be financial support. I'm sorry. Or you could want financial support, or you could want just the support of everyone in your audience for what you're doing. And it could be that you want more people to come, right? So that's what marketing can be about, all of those things. There are lots of ways to market. You can do it through word of mouth. So that's like, oh, hey, did you hear about my show, right? You can do it through community programs, which is education, development, welfare, right? Like that's the stuff we were talking about last class. That audience development is a type of marketing. And then there's advertising, which is what you normally think of as marketing, which we talked about earlier, which is like when you buy ads or when you purchase a billboard or a radio or whatever, that's advertising. I think that's it. Oh, nope, advertising. Here we go. Yeah, advertising. So the point of advertising, unlike other marketing efforts, is to sell. So we talked about earlier, all those other marketing things, right? They're about research. They're about creating value. They're about equity, right? So we talked about equity. We talked about loyalty. We talked about associations, awareness, right? We talked about all of those things. Those are all parts of marketing, right? Research, positive opinions, okay? Marketing is about spreading awareness. And advertising is about selling. So the point of advertising, unlike other marketing products, is to sell, okay? Or efforts is to sell. Not all advertising is direct. Some attempt to directly induce action, like a concert this weekend, tickets $10 to $35, and some are indirect, so they highlight the efforts of the company. If you view the company and their product favorably, you're more inclined to buy. So not all advertising is direct. Some do attempt to directly induce to action. So that's like, hey, come to our show this weekend, or buy my product. I made stickers. They're really cheap. I love them. But then there's the indirect, right? So it highlights the efforts of the company, right? So that's like saying, Zine Fest Houston has been successful for 7 years, and we've had this many people coming, and look at all the great stuff we've done, right? If your buyers, your audiences view your company and your product favorably, they are more inclined to buy. For example, I don't shop at Walmart, right? I don't shop at Walmart because I don't view them favorably. I don't enjoy the way that they treat their employees. I don't like the way that they have killed a lot of small businesses. So I have a negative view of that company. I have a negative view of their product. And so I'm not going to buy, right? So sometimes it's important for for organizations, and no, not sometimes. It's always important for you to be thinking about what the full brand of your organization is. There's a theater company. I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't tell you or put on a video that other people could watch, but here's what I'm going to say. There's a theater company in town that I hate. I hate them. Every time I see their ads come up on my Facebook, it makes me very angry because I don't like their company, right? I think that their company operates in a way that is not helpful to the community. I think they have some really great shows. I think I'd really love to see some of their shows, but I never will because I don't like their company. I don't like the product or the company. I don't see them favorably. All right. So I'm not inclined to buy. Oh my gosh. Hold on one second. All right. And then there's so that's what we were just talking about indirect. So there's modes of advertising, right? Advertising is print, radio, TV, billboard, web-based, click ads, social media. Social media is the way that you see most arts organizations advertising nowadays. If you have any questions about any of these modes of advertising, let me know. But these are all pretty common, right? These are all ways that we know about, right? All right. So let's talk about social media for just a second. Social media is the newest and the most widely used form. Its efficacy is debatable. Do you know what efficacy means? So efficacy means effectiveness, right? So efficiency, I'm trying to fix the light. So efficiency is how fast, right? And efficacy is how effective something is, all right? So the cost benefit is difficult to define, right? It's hard to know if people are coming from your social media to your shows, if they're buying tickets directly from social media. We just haven't developed the tools for that yet. It's coming around. Google Analytics and Facebook Analytics are getting there, but we're not quite there. So you have to be able to know what constitutes success for you, and if you're doing social media. The benefits are evident, right? So it's free, right? Unless you're going to buy advertisements, right? In theory, it moves fast, right? It's a really great way to do word of mouth, right? Nowadays, it's a good way to spread awareness. It's interactive. It allows your audience to speak back to you about what they want, what they desire, and it allows for network and recommendation sharing, right? That's a little bit about word of mouth, right? So they can. Earlier we talked about associations. So if you're associated with someone that is a friend of someone else, then they're much more likely to come see your show. That's networking and recommendation sharing. So that's it. That is our conversation about marketing. That should help you write your marketing plans. Your marketing plans should be not just advertising, right? So it's about audience development. It's about community engagement, which is the next week's lecture, and it's about marketing. All of those things together should be a part of your marketing plan. All of those things are how you are successful as an organization. So as you're writing your organizational marketing plan, you want to think about, your organization, you've researched your demographic, so think about how does that organization do something specifically to reach out to that demographic. Is it an event? Is it advertising? Is it some classes? What is it that they're going to do? What's their plan to reach out to those people? It could be more than one thing. It could be one thing. You have a certain amount of money to spend, and it's not something that it could be an event that they're already planning to do, but you cannot just redouble their marketing, right? So you have to come up with a new plan. So it could be about an opening that they're having coming up, but it can't be like you're just parroting back to me the marketing that they're already doing. All right. Let me know if you guys have any questions or concerns. I think you guys are going to be great. Keep talking to your groups, and I look forward to reading your marketing plans, and I look forward to seeing your thoughts about marketing. The questions about marketing are really interesting this week, so we'll see. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. So here's a good one. Transferring a message from person to person in social media is not done solely by the people in the organization, right? Or by people outside the organization. So think about this, how does an organization manage its message in the social media environment when several, perhaps many people are updating Facebook or tweeting, right? So if you have all these people, not just in your organization, but outside your organization talking about it, how do you manage your reputation? That's a good thing to think about, right? I'm really excited to see your answers to these questions. These are things that arts organizations struggle with all the time. And I think you guys are going to have some really innovative thoughts, and I'm looking forward to hearing them. And I hope you have a great week. And I hope you're not scared of the marketing plan. Don't be scared. You're going to be great, okay? One more thing. I have uploaded your, I should have put this in next week, but I'm putting it in this week. I've uploaded your next assignment, which is an advocacy plan. The first thing you're going to do is a target locale, which just means you're going to look at the art in Houston, right? So you're just going to research art in Houston. You're going to write like a 2 to 3 page profile of art in Houston. What's going on? Who's doing it? How much does it cost? In Houston, not in Harris County. So in Houston specifically. And you are, this is an individual project. So once you finish your organizational marketing plan, you're done with groups. Yay! Once you finish your organizational marketing plan, you're done with groups, and you'll start working individually. It is a Turnitin assignment, which means it's got this weird thing. If it doesn't work, let me know and we'll figure it out. I think you guys are doing great in the class. I'm really glad to be your professor, and let me know if you need anything. Thanks, guys.